Man, for some of those people, the police back then that thought that what Elvis was doing was a little risque, I would love to see their reaction to performances now. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today our movie in the middle is Elvis.
The greatest show on earth.
Elvis is the biopic of the titular king of rock and roll and how he was taken advantage of by his agent, Colonel Tom Parker. It stars Austin Butler and Tom Hanks and was directed by Baz Luhrmann. Well, oddly enough, I didn't have an Elvis shirt, but I did have an Elton John shirt from the concert I went to this year, so, just makeshifting it. So this seems to be the new thing. We've gotten a number of these musical biopics, however you say it, in the last couple of years, obviously starting with Bohemian Rhapsody, and then Rocket Man a couple years after that, and now we have Elvis. And so it just seems to be continuing the chain. There's actually going to be like thousands more of these coming up. There's like a ton of them. There's a Weird Al, there's Michael Jackson, there's I think David Bowie, there's Bob Dylan, Bob Marley, all the Bobs. They're just doing all of them. So get ready, because I hope you like these movies. But Elvis is directed by Baz Luhrmann, and if you know anything about Baz Luhrmann, he is eccentric.
Cause that's not much fun.
Harold Zidler and his infamous girls.
Just watching his stuff makes me tired. But I thought, honestly, this could work really well because his stuff is very quick, it's fast-paced, it's cool, it's fun, and even if it gets a little crazy sometimes, I think that this would work for parts of this movie. And going into it, I thought, especially for the Vegas parts, this would be really cool, but I gotta be honest, even for Baz Luhrmann, this was a lot. So starting off with the highs, like I said, Baz Luhrmann is fun. And this one is no less fun than anything else he's done. In fact, it's actually a lot more. It is insane. It is just from one thing to the next. It's just Elvis music, Elvis fandom stuff, Elvis fans, screaming sounds, everything, 24/7. It can get to be a lot. I'll get to that in a second. But it is very fun. It keeps you on your toes the entire time. Prepare to not have to go to the bathroom for at least the first half of this movie. And the use of the music, obviously, that is a huge part of this movie. It was awesome. Obviously, in Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man, they used their music, but it was kind of different in both of those. Bohemian Rhapsody was more of how they would actually just use it in recording and maybe in some montages. Rocket Man was a little bit more abstract. It was sort of more of like a concert where they would just break into songs sometimes, and you're like, well, it's more of like a musical rather than a biopic. But in this one, it's a little bit of both. And honestly, a lot of them is just using his songs for the montages and then in the performances. So it was kind of a mix of both. But I have to say, for the times that he is on stage, especially at the International Hotel, it feels like you are there. I don't know what it is about how they shot this movie, but it is just huge for some of these scenes. It feels like you're really in that room like when this concert is going on or when all these concerts are going on, and it's just amazing. It's like if you never got to see Elvis in person, it's kind of like you did there. It was super cool. Another thing that I really like that they did in terms of the music is that they pointed out and really highlighted this theme of taking music that we normally attribute to white artists and not so much revealing, because we already kind of know this, but really emphasizing that it came from black artists originally. They really highlighted, that all these artists that we know who have sung all these really famous songs and have become huge because of them, all that music originally came from a lot of black artists and music that black people would sing all the time. And I liked that they really put that in Elvis's character. Obviously, he's not a character, he was a person, but I like that because I didn't know that about him, that he really liked that stuff, and that's actually where he felt most comfortable and at home, which is awesome. All right, but obviously, the biggest high of this movie is Austin Butler. This has to be one of the, if not the biggest acting glow up I have ever seen. This man played James on Zoey 101. He played extras in the background of Ned's Declassified, and I think maybe Drake and Josh, and maybe even some Disney Channel shows. And now he's Elvis. But more than that, he was really good as Elvis. Actually, he was pretty much perfect. Apparently, Austin Butler committed to this role, and you can tell, but it was like almost Joker level method acting. Like, apparently everybody who plays a Joker now has to method act it, but he like watched every single thing. He read every single thing. He watched all Elvis's movies, all of them. And it shows because he had Elvis down pat. Like, every little nuance, every little movement, every little quirk and facial expression and just everything. He had him down. It was kind of insane. And obviously looking at him like straight on, Austin Butler looks a little bit like thinner and like a little more chiseled than I think Elvis did. But other than that, my God, I mean, even the makeup department, they did an amazing job. From the side and from moments where it's like you're looking at him, but it's like he's moving a lot, that might as well just be Elvis on stage. There were parts where they have Austin Butler in this movie, and then like there's a line down the middle, and you'll see the actual Elvis performing on stage, and it was hard to tell who was who sometimes. It was nuts. But I will say it did take a toll on him, like method acting usually ends up doing, because apparently he's shooting a new movie that's a war movie. And the director has to keep being like, hey, you're not Elvis, because he keeps slipping back into that because he was Elvis for like 3 years. That's insane. Take care of yourself, Austin, please. It's kind of insane the people that they get for these artists to play them. I mean, Rami Malek winning the Oscar for Freddie Mercury, he was amazing. It is a crime that Taron Egerton did not even get nominated for Elton John. That was just insane. But Austin Butler should get some sort of nomination because he was so good. And then obviously playing opposite of him is Tom Hanks, and it's kind of insane that Tom Hanks is in this movie, and the one that I'm like really talking about is Austin Butler. Who would have ever thought? But Tom Hanks, once again, does an amazing job. The first time I saw the trailer, and every time I saw the trailer, and then even the beginning of this movie, I thought, this is going to be ridiculous. They've just made him like such a caricature, even though this was a real person. But, I get it after a while of watching it. I got it. And I sort of understood where it was coming from, because Tom Parker was a cheap piece of shit. Like, he was. It's all he did was gamble and take advantage of Elvis. That's pretty much every single thing he did. He manipulated the crap out of this guy. His voice is so stupid. I'm sorry, but I don't know if that's actually how Colonel Parker sounded, but it's how he sounded in the movie. But I got to be honest, Tom Hanks was great. He doesn't normally play a villain, but he played him really well in this. And he was honestly super funny, too. There were a lot of really funny moments with him as well, sprinkled in here. And there are some really great emotional and very tense scenes that come up later in the movie, especially. I wouldn't have expected to get emotional over Elvis, but just the things that went on in that movie and how sad it got, and definitely the contrast from the end to the beginning and how that started out tonally. I don't know, it just felt a lot heavier. It was really, really well done. I only have one middle element, and that is that in the middle of the movie, funny enough, they touch on the part of Elvis's career where he gets into movies. Obviously, Blue Hawaii and Jailhouse Rock and all these others, which my family, we love. We watch them all the time. I mean, they're so cheesy and terrible, but we love them. And we love the music. Honestly, I like the Elvis at the movies songs better than his regular songs. They're just so short and catchy, and they're like candy, and I don't know, they're fun to me. They're my favorite thing to listen to in terms of Elvis. But I was really sad because they focused on the movies part for like 2, maybe 3 minutes, because it was kind of like a sort of montage type deal, and it was more for the focus of, in the background of him doing these movies, there were big historical events happening that were affecting him. It was really cool to see them recreating all the movie sets and putting him into these movies and talking about it. And I wanted to touch on it also because that was a huge part of the Colonel taking advantage of Elvis and making his career a living hell. Was he had all these contracts where he was like, you're gonna do all these movies, and Elvis was like, I'm so sick of these, they're terrible and I hate them and I hate doing them. And then he had to keep doing all of them. And so I would have wanted to see that too, in just in that respect. But I can obviously see why they didn't, because it's already 2.5 hours. It's a long movie, but they kind of got that part across later on as well, especially during the international concerts. of him taking advantage of him. So I can see them not wanting to just be redundant about it, but it was just a personal thing that I'm like, I want to see more movie set stuff. That would have been pretty cool. I like to see him in the movies and them recreating all that stuff. But again, I can obviously see why they wouldn't just keep piling it on. Okay, there is one gigantic low for this movie, and it is pretty much the first third to half of the movie is kind of frustrating to watch. If you would ask me halfway through this movie what I thought of it, or even at the beginning, I would have said, it's okay. But if you ask me at the end, I'm like, it's a lot better. And it's because the ending really calms down and saves it. But the beginning of this movie, especially even to maybe an hour in or so, you know how in movies it's like a bunch of scenes with maybe like one or two montages? The first third to half this movie is a montage with a few scenes. It was like I was seeing a museum reel, you know, outside an exhibit of Elvis. It was like this whole movie was a trailer for this movie, if that makes sense, because all it was Tom Hanks narrating and then them going back and forth between different time periods really quickly with insane editing and quick shots and everything. And after a while, it was like, I don't even know what order this is supposed to be in. I don't know what timeline this is. It was just montage after montage, which they're fun. But after a while, I'm like, can we have like something of substance, like a real scene with dialogue here? I mean, there might be like one or two that are more than a minute long in the first half of the movie. And again, after that, it slows down. It settles a little bit after like the 68 special, which was that. The rest of it was just amazing. But before that was like, look, I can't even look down or I'm going to be confused. I'm already confused watching it. And obviously that's Baz Luhrmann. But even for Baz Luhrmann, I was like, you really went hard with this. So I appreciated the cool tone and all the really abstract stuff. And like, it was kind of like Rocket Man in terms of all that like artistry. And it was a little artsy and weird. But obviously it's Vegas. So they had all the lights and everything as well. I appreciated that. I just wish that it had been a little bit more here and there rather than the entire thing for half this movie, which is already 2.5 hours long. So overall, Elvis was an experience of a movie. It was super fun. Elvis is one of my favorites, my dad's favorites, so we listen to him all the time. I think definitely the second half saved the movie for me, because up until then, I really wasn't feeling it as much. I still thought it was cool, but I was frustrated trying to watch it. But then the second half really, really pulls it out, and it makes me appreciate the first half a little bit more as well. So it's definitely not perfect. I'm just glad it's getting good reviews. It was really cool, and not to say that he doesn't have a lot of issues. Like, he didn't have all those issues when he was alive. Because the thing is, apparently, according to his family, this was a very accurate depiction of him. That being said, you know, everything that was there was accurate, but, you know, if there was stuff that they didn't put in there, I don't know. But it was a very fun movie. It was musical and insane and a little chaotic, but it was awesome. I'm going to give Elvis a 3 out of 4. It's just got to be nuts getting to this point where you're like, you're not a person anymore. You are just an idea. You are a concept people go to see. That's insane. Well, guys, let me know what you thought of the movie Elvis, and let me know what your favorite Elvis song is. Do you like the movie songs better? Do you like his regular songs better? What do you like about Elvis? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and movies right in the middle. See you guys later.